in 1985, I got introduced to Marty Jones by Tony Francis, who I just mentioned, who decided on the name of Steve Regal for me. And they, Fit and Tony were friends, and I was wrestling already for this smaller company in Blackpool. I went to a joint promotion show with Tony Francis. I was just stood at the back, and he introduced me to Marty Jones. And Marty said, "Okay, you come and train with me on a Sunday morning." He had a ring in a stable, in a horse stable just outside of Manchester. And there was only 2 people in that 18 months that I was going there every Sunday. I was a full-time wrestler and going over there on a Sunday and working in a nightclub as well on a Friday and Saturday night in Blackpool. But I would get over there at 9 o'clock on a Sunday morning and never charge me a penny or ask me for anything. The only thing he asked me for was hard work. Myself and the only 2 people that survived that, or because he would invite other people, with myself and another incredible, far better than me, wrestler called Mark McCoy, who after a while stopped wrestling. And me and him trained together, and he was just always better than me. So I hadn't met Fit Finlay at this time because I was training with Marty, but I was still on working smaller opposition shows. I turn up on a Sunday morning, and there's more than the usual 2 cars sometimes there might be 3 if there was somebody new who'd been invited. They didn't usually last long because Marty would put you through it. Not taking liberties,
right?
Taught you the right way. But it was the squats, push-ups, all and then get in the ring and teaching you everything properly. Well,
but you saw those cars in the parking lot. You knew something was up.
I knew there was more people going to be there than me and Kid McCoy anyway, because at the time there was just me and Kid McCoy. Nobody else was around. There'd been a few lads, and they'd stopped coming because for whatever reason they couldn't handle it or whatever. And I walk in and I see Max Crabtree, who is the head promoter of the joint promotions, Dale Martin Promotions, who is Big Daddy's brother, by the way. Now, my whole thing was, Marty's telling me, you train with me enough, you can work for joint promotions, which is a big step up the ladder for me. So I'm there, and I see these 2 other fellas. Now, these 2 other fellas were huge men, but in different ways. One of them was a huge man that looked like Mario, the video game character. And the other fella was a giant, but the scruffiest looking giant you've ever seen, covered in homemade tattoos, right? He's got the love and hat. Actually, he had love and hat on one hand because somebody had bit his finger off. So, and I'm joking. It's an old joke. But he had all the prison tattoos and all that stuff. Now, at the time, the Big Daddy Roadshow kind of thing was coming.
It was winding down.
It was it had peaked in the very early 80s. And unfortunately, that was one of the reasons on promotions, because it kept going long after its sell-by date. Max Crabtree was an excellent promoter, and he still was when but it's a family thing, right? And he didn't build up anymore. Fit became a star. He'd have become a star. It didn't matter what. But he kept the Big Daddy thing going as much as possible. Well, you needed opponents for Big Daddy, and Big Daddy was a super heavyweight, and you wanted you wanted monsters, is what you wanted. And it's not the nicest of term, but they used to, the older fellas used to call any of these people that they found to wrestle Daddy that didn't stay in the game, but were just there to have maybe one TV match with him, two big monsters in a tag match with a young baby face, and I'd say it was me because it was me, okay, but I never had to work or wrestle with any of these not good wrestlers. The
Right.
ones that I did, they were big fellas, Drew McDonald and Rex Strong and people, but they knew what they were doing. He was always on the lookout for another pair, some new monsters
Right.
to fight Daddy. That was part of the the attraction of it. And the older wrestlers used to call him Daddy Fodder. So they were just basically to. So he's. I don't know if this is true or not because this is Marty telling me after this what I'm going to tell you now happened, and then they left. And once they'd left, Marty, and Kid McCoy did our usual training, and he told us Max was basically driving along the street, looked over at a bus stop, and saw these two fellas stood there, pulled his car over. Oh, have you ever thought about being wrestlers? That was how they ended up there. Well, there was still no easy way in. You had to go and get put through it.
Sure.
Right? That was it. This was in a day and age where we told
You
people this was
you protected the
on the
business.
level, protected the business.
Right.
So even though they were whatever they may be, they still had to go through the ring. So they're there, and that me and Kid McCoy are sort of there. We're both in early. I'm 17. Kid McCoy might be a year older than me, or a year, about the same age anyway. Max Crabtree's there. Well, we just go and Marty went, go and introduce yourself. So we go on along Mr. Crabtree, and he's like, "Hello, kid. How are you?" Max talk like that. "Hello, kid. How you doing? Nice to see you. Nice to see you." Marty says good things about you. He's probably never talked to Marty about us. It's just Max. He was just the way he was, right? You could always tell. I really like Max. He was, and when later on in my career, he was very good to me. He used to actually sit down and explain everything and why you shouldn't. But I hadn't even worked for. He didn't even know me at this time. But he just there. You could tell when Max was lying. He used to always have an handkerchief and then he'd pull it out and he'd start rubbing his mouth. So you used to have these giveaway signs. And again, a wonderful. I liked him, but all the promoters I knew, they were all rogues. I think that's part and parcel of being a promoter. But I liked him. I didn't know him at this time, but I got on very well with him later on. He was always nice to me. I would love. I know he's still alive, but one day when I get back to him, I'd love to go and see him because he was very good to me later on.